What's up, everyone? It's your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How is everyone? Oh, man, I am just getting up. I'm tired and we're still always tired, apparently. Sorry, I forgot a very important. There we go. Very important. This. Had to get my Rumble live chat up in case, someone wants to message me, just in case. Manners. Apparently, there's a bunch of windows I need to close. There we go. All right. All right, we're ready ish. How is everyone doing? Oh, we got a few things to talk about today. Just a few. We're going to talk about Trump's vow. He vows to prohibit child sexual mutilation. I'm assuming he's talking about, transitioning of children, but we'll see. We'll see what he's talking about. And then after that, we're going to look at Justice Alito's comments on Congress lacking the power to impose code ethics onto the Supreme Court. So we'll look at that, see what he says. And then Senator or Speaker of the House McCarthy has confirmed that he has started the impeachment process for Biden. So we'll see what he has to say about that. And then the White House have been dealt a major blow by a judge who says that illegal aliens are not eligible for asylum. So, someone actually is making some goddamn common sense for once. So that's interesting to see. And then finally, after all that, we're going to look at the story of Eric Popper. Sorry. A guy who blindly opened fire in Miami after a passing vehicle threw a water bottle at his car. Let's see. And the fact that all his charges have been dropped. Look at that as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the topics today, all right? So, first things first. Let's look into Trump's comments.
On day one, I will sign an executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on children. I will keep men out of women's sports. And, nobody's been tougher on that than me. How ridiculous is that? And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation. Can you believe we even have to say this in all 50 states? On day one, I will sign it.
All right. That's what he said. He said he's going to cut any funding to schools that want to do critical race theory, transgender crap, and all that stuff. That's good. We don't need any of that stuff into in schools. It's all just a bunch of waste of time. That kind of crap. It doesn't do any good, really. Child sexual mutilation. Again, I think he's talking about um oh, sorry. Here we go. I think he's obviously talking about transgender stuff, allowing transitioning of children in all 50 states. But this also could very well mean like circumcision and stuff. But I'm assuming he's talking about the transgender surgeries, which would be a good thing. The fact that he even has to say anything, like he says, is really ridiculous. I mean, look, I really have no care for the transgender stuff. I really don't care. I mean, I don't really care what people want to do in their personal lives. If they want to go and cut off their dick and make a fake vagina, and that they have to have a medical device to keep inserting to keep it from closing up. I really do not care that much if adults want to do this, but I really think we should stop pushing it on children. I've seen so many videos lately of people coming back and regretting the fact that they went to transitioning. Kids should be kids, and we should just, if they want to do this stuff after they become an adult, that's one thing. But if we're going to try and push it, sorry. Well, they're still too young to even give sexual consent, but they can give consent to, get surgery done that's completely permanent and can't be reversed. It's ridiculous to me. And he also said, keeping men out of female sports, and that would be a good thing too. It's really stupid that we even have to have a conversation about men in female sports. Like, we're seeing so many men that are calling themselves women kicking the asses of women in their own sports, and yeah, sorry. And there's nothing really being done about it. And I don't think there would, I mean, unless, besides Trump putting in an executive order, I don't think there'll be anything really done about it until more and more athletic women start to stand up and speak, like Riley Gaines. Oh, sorry, excuse me. But yeah, that's gonna be the only way to. This is actually gonna, unless, again, besides unless Trump, signs that executive order banning it. I really think that the women that do these sports need to stand up and, for lack of a better term, grow a set before anything of actual merit will happen. So far, it actually seems like a lot more dudes that don't even watch women's sports that actually give a shit, which is kind of funny, honestly. It's like you said, we really don't, like, if you really think about it, it's like, we really, no, I don't watch women's sports. No, I don't really care. Or anything like that. But hey, sorry. But yeah, I really don't, I mean, I'm sure most of the guys that like are, advocating against men being in women's sports really don't give two shits about women's sports, but they're like, hey, this is wrong. And we shouldn't have men in women's sports. It's not very fair. But anyways. So, but yeah, those were Trump's comments. So, he seems to be doing really well. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll definitely vote for Trump if he gets the nomination. All right. So Justice Alito says Congress lacks the power to impose ethic codes on Supreme Court. This is 100% true. There's nothing in the Bill of Rights that say, or not the Bill of Rights, the Constitution that gives the power to Congress to make any laws on the Supreme Court at all. Really, I think even the limitation of how many justices is a court decision, not a Congress decision. When it comes to these sorts of things, it's actually up to the Supreme Court to manage their own, ethic code and stuff like that. And it's really funny seeing Congress try and push this stuff, considering like how corrupt Congress is. Like, if anyone really needs a code of ethics, it's going to be Congress, not the Supreme Court. But this is only coming because they really don't like some of the decisions that the Supreme Court have been handing down lately, like Roe v. Wade. They've been really hating on that since it ever got, what's the word for? Since it got struck down. Sorry, doing something that's good. Anyways, sorry. But yeah, ever since Roe v. Wade, they've been looking, they've been trying to limit. They've been trying to get a lot of the conservative judges out, like Justice Clarence Thomas and whatnot. And then the gun, Bruin versus National Rifle and Pistol Association's decision got handed down, and affirmative action got struck down. So this is just a lot. This is just Democrats in Congress trying to make up some fake shit to try and get some conservative judges off the court. And the Congress has the power to remove bad justices. It's called impeachment, but they can't do it because there's nothing that justices have done that is impeachable. Like, I guess Clarence Thomas, he has a friend who's very wealthy, and he accepted a trip from him years and years ago, and then all of a sudden there's a case before him. I don't even remember what the thing is, but it's kind of a bogus claim is what I remember. Anyways, let's look at what Justice Alito says. Democrats last week pushed Supreme Court ethics legislation through a Senate committee, but the bill prospects in the narrowly divided Senate are dim. And then another thing is Congress has no way to enforce anything they try to push onto the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court could just be like, no, because the Supreme Court are the ones that police themselves. Washington. Justice Samuel Alito says Congress lacked the power to impose a code of ethics on the Supreme Court, making him the first member of the court to take a public stance against proposals in Congress to toughen ethic rules for justices in response to increased scrutiny of their activities beyond the bench. I know this is controversial, but I'm willing to say it. No provision in the Constitution gives them the authority to regulate the Supreme Court, period, Alito said in an interview he gave to the Wall Street Journal opinion pages. An account of the interview, which the paper said took place in New York in early July, was published Friday. Democrats last week pushed Supreme Court ethics legislation through a Senate committee, though the prospects in the full Senate are dim. All federal judges, other than the justices, already adhere to an ethics code that was developed by the federal judiciary. But the Supreme Court's unique status, it's the only federal court created by the Constitution, puts it outside the reach of those standards that apply to other federal jurists. Yeah, that's 100% true. The Supreme Court was created by the Constitution, Its power derives from the Constitution. All the other federal courts that have been made since then yeah, those are within the Congress's discretion to make ethic codes and all that stuff. Democrats first sought to address that after ProPublica reported earlier this year that Justice Clarence Thomas participated in lavish vacations and a real estate deal with a top Republican donor, and after Justice John Roberts declined to testify before the committee about the ethics of the court. Since then, ProPublica also revealed that Alito has taken a luxurious vacation in Alaska with a Republican donor who had business interests before the court. The Associated Press in early July that Justice Sonia Sotomayor, aided by her staff, has advanced sales of her books through colleges visited over the past decade. The 73-year-old Alito, who joined the court in 2006, has rejected the idea that he should have disclosed the Alaska trip or stepped away from the case involving the donor, hedge fund owner Paul Singer. Alito penned his own Wall Street Journal op-ed, which was published hours before ProPublica posted its story. Alito said he's unwilling to leave the allegations unanswered, though he acknowledged judge and justices typically don't respond to their critics. And so, at a certain point, I've said to myself, no one else is going to do this, so I have to defend myself. He said in the newest column. While no other justice has spoken to so definitive about ethics legislations, Roberts has raised questions about Congress authorities to oversee the High Court. In his year-end report in 2011, Robert wrote that justice comply with legislations that require annual financial disclosures and limit their outside earning income. The court has never addressed whether Congress may impose those requirements on the Supreme Court. The justices nevertheless comply with those provisions, Roberts wrote. The justices have so far resisted adopting an ethics code of their own, although Roberts said in May that there is more that the court can do to adhere to the highest standards of ethics code conduct without providing specifics. The column is co-written by James Terraton, the paper's editorial feature editor, and Dave Rivkin, a Washington lawyer. Rivkin represents Leonard Leo, the one-time leader of the conservative legal group, the Federalist Society, and is dealing with the Senate Democrats who want detail of Leo's dealings with justice. Leo helped arrange Alito's trip to Alaska. Rivkin, in a letter Tuesday to leading Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said the request was politically motivated and violates Leo's constitutional rights. Rivkin also wrote that a congressional imposed ethics code of the Congress would falter on constitutional grounds. Separately, Rivkin represents a couple whose tax case will be argued before the court in the fall. Alito wrote with the Terraton and Rivkin for 4 hours in an interview in April and July. They published an account of the early interview in April. All right, so there's that. But yeah, constitutionally, the Congress has really no feet to stand on. Like they really don't. There's nothing. Like the Congress has the power to impeach. That's all they can really do is impeach justices. But what they have to try and impeach them isn't impeachable. So that's why they're trying to go through this whole code of ethics bullshit. I'd say, why don't we impose a code of ethics on Congress? Because we all know that they are getting some extra money with a bunch of fucking side deals. We all know this. We see, them having some substantial houses and money and stuff that is way more than the government a salary of a government employee. So Congress, why don't you start looking at your own house before you try and mess with others? Is my opinion. All right, let's go and look at this. All right. Breaking. Speaker McCarthy confirms start to Joe Biden's impeachment process over criminal corruption.
Earlier this week, we talked about floating the idea of impeaching President Biden as an investigation into economic Congress. Are you still?
Okay, let me first correct you. Were you there when I said that? Okay, then what did I say? Okay, so you're claiming that I said we're going to impeach the president. I floated the idea of impeachment. Okay, so you're wrong. So if you record, go back and watch. I said impeachment inquiry. There is a big difference. And let me explain it because maybe not everybody understands it. What impeachment inquiry does when you vote on the floor, it gives you the apex of power of Congress. Okay? And just walk through what? We have 2 whistleblowers from the IRS claiming the Biden family were treated differently, that David Weiss let the statute of limitations run out. The basic rule of thumb in any case, when you're getting the statute of limitations coming up within 6 months, you get an extension based upon the individuals. They said the Bidens were willing to do that. They should do that now. We have an individual that we now found went to the FBI a number of years ago, claiming that they bribed the president and said you couldn't find the money because all the shell companies, it's the 1023. We found that when then Attorney General Barr found it, that he sent it to the Pennsylvania justice, and they said there's more to it. When does an attorney out investigate the FBI? We then found that the president, Biden, while running for office, made a couple claims. He first looked the public in the eye and said, I've never spoken to my son about any business. He said, my family has not taken one dime from China. In part of this investigation, we found that when the vice president became vice president, his family created 20 shell companies, kind of like what the 1023 said would happen. We found that 16 of the 17 payments from Romania came to the president while he was vice president. We now found that money did come from China, differently said. We've now found the president has changed what he said, but we have a real question about David Weiss and the attorney general and the other 6 people in the meeting. It's contradictory based upon what the IRS agents said and asked questions and took notes from the meetings and emailed everybody about those notes. Now, if you're any member of Congress, this is not saying impeachment. This is not anything but we need to investigate. And what happens, like you watched the situation yesterday, where the federal government says there's still an investigation of the Bidens. Well, the only way you'll be able to get information that way is to have the strength to be able to get the documents you need. I was concerned when asked a question that I haven't seen an administration act this way at the same time as Nixon did by withholding information. If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation. So I'm glad you asked a question that I could clarify that you misinterpreted and misstated.
Okay, so that's I don't know, kit and caboodle, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I missed that. He didn't say it's starting any an impeachment process. I have no idea. He said a lot of things. All right. So I don't really have any comments on that. You just said a bunch of stuff. So, all right. Let's get into this next one. Federal judge blocks key Biden admin asylum rule at core of post Title 42 strategy. So the Biden administration was dealt. I can take this out of my ears now. Was dealt a major blow in its efforts to control the ongoing border crisis on Tuesday, when a federal judge blocked a rule introduced in May that makes migrants okay, sorry. Wait, what? I read this shit incorrectly. Okay, whatever. That makes blocked a rule introduced in May that makes migrants ineligible for asylum if they have entered illegally, failed to take advantage of the expansive lawful pathway set up by the federal government. Did I read that fucking article incorrectly? Because I could have sworn this was about. Hold on. No, I'm confounded. Oh, I read this article incorrectly. All right, I'll have to fix that in post. Well, all right. Sounds like this judge is an idiot. Judge John Tiger of the U.S. District Court of Northern District of California blocked the circumvention of lawful pathways rule in response to a lawsuit from a coalition of left-wing immigration groups, which claims the rule was similar to a Trump-era transit ban that was similarly blocked. He found the rule is both substantive and procedurally invalid, and has ruled and delayed his ruling from taking effect from 14 days to give the administration time to appeal. The rule formed the centerpiece of the administration's strategy to deal with the expiration of Title 42 public health order in May. It presumes migrants to be ineligible for asylum if they have entered the U.S. illegally and have failed to claim asylum in a country through which they have already traveled. The administration has said it is designed to discourage irregular migration and encourage migrants to use the expanded legal pathways set up, including the use of the controversial CB1 app, which allows migrants to apply for one of the more than 14,000 appointments at a port of entry each day to parole into the U.S. The presumption of eligibility can be challenged if a migrant can show exceptional circumstances, and officials have rejected comparisons to the Trump-era travel ban. This rule also does not apply to unoccupied minors. The rule has formed a central cog in the Biden administration's effort to tackle post-Title 42 surge. Post-Title 2 surge. Hold on, I just gotta fix my shit. See, here's what happens when you do this stuff live. You realize that I thought this was a case where a judge was ruling that illegals a judge who ruled that illegals seeking asylum are ineligible for asylum. No, I was wrong about that. The rule has been has formed a central cog in the Biden administration's efforts to tackle post-Title 42 surge, along with messaging, cooperation with NGOs in Mexico, and a stiffening of traditional Title 8 penalties. It also has set up process centers across Central America, increased refugee administrations, and set up a special parole system for up to 30,000 Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Haitians each month to fly into the U.S. Starting tonight, people who arrive at the border without using a lawful path will be presumed ineligible for asylum. We are ready to humanely process and remove people without a legal basis to remain in the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in May. He rejected comparisons to the Trump era transit ban, knowing that the presumption of eligibility is rebutable, unlike the Trump era or Trump rule. The rule has angered left-wing immigration activists, which said it was cruel and limited the ability of foreign nationals to claim asylum in the U.S. Well, I mean, if you entered it illegally, not really seeking asylum. Well, whatever. American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, which led the group in lawsuits, hailed the ruling on Tuesday. The ruling is a victory, but each day the Biden administration prolonged the fight over its illegal ban. Many people flee persecution and seek safe harbor for their family are instead left in grave danger. Said Catherine Linden, deputy director of the ACLU Immigration Right Project, in a statement. The promise of America is to serve as a beacon of freedom and hope. The administration can and should do better to fulfill this promise, rather than perpetuate cruel and ineffective policies that betray it. Tiger, a Trump appointee, blocked the ruling on the basis that the notice procedures put into place for the rule are insufficient under the Administration Procedure Act, which determines how rules are enacted by federal agencies and requires certain notice and comment periods. The administration provided a 30-day notice for a silent rule, but Tigra deemed that to be insufficient because of the rule's complexity. The complexity of the rule suggests that 30 days is unreasonable, particularly because the agencies were preparing for the end of Title 42 well before it was announced, such that it could have issued the notice with sufficient time to grant a longer comment period and still have had the rule in place when Title 42 expired. The agencies also did not disclose other relevant policy changes that would affect the agency's reasoning for adopting the rule, including one that converted an assumption central to the agency's project of post-Title 42 encounters at the southern border. The ruling marks a major blow for the administration, which had pointed to a sharp drop in encounters in June from record highs seen in the beginning of May before the Title 42 order ended on May 11th. It had also dealt a blow at the time when the policy to release migrants into the U.S. without court dates was blocked after a challenge from Florida. Numbers in June show 14. Oh, sorry, it just shows 144,000 migrant cancers for the month, which is the lowest number since February 2021, although still comparably high compared to pre-2021 numbers. Administrations had cited that numbers to show that a combination of the rural and expansion of lawful pathways was a way to restore order at the besieged border. Judge Smith claimed by the administration that if the rule was blocked, there will be a return to high encounters at the border, says the rule cannot remain in place and vacate the challenge. Rule would restore regulated regimen that has been placed for decades before. The lawsuit was faced on a separate challenge from Republican-led states, which argue the rule is a smokescreen to define problem way by recharacterizing what would be illegal crossings as lawful pathways. Maricos is scheduled to testify Wednesday before the House Judiciary Committee. In a statement on Tuesday, it said DHS strongly disagrees with today's ruling and is confident that the circumvention of lawful pathway rule is lawful. He said the DOJ will appeal and seek a stay on the judge's order. To be clear, because the district court temporarily stayed its decision, today's ruling does not change anything immediately, he said. It does not limit our ability to deliver consequences for unlawful entry. He also has a message for migrants. Don't believe the lies of smugglers. Those who failed to use one of the many lawful pathways we have expanded will be presumed ineligible for asylum. If they do not have a basis to remain, will be subject to prompt removal, a minimum 5-year ban on administration or admission, a potential criminal prosecution of unlawful reentry. We encourage migrants to ignore the lies of smugglers and use lawful, safe, and orderly pathways have been expanded under the Biden. Oh, all right. Well, there's that. So it looks like the judge denied this on the basis of procedural error. He didn't really say anything about it being unlawful or anything like that. So there's that. So yeah, that's the end of that. I mean, I really don't think anyone who crosses the border illegally should even, they shouldn't be accepted as asylum seekers. There's a way to seek asylum, and you got to go through a port of entry. You can't just cross the border illegally and then say, "Oh, I'm seeking asylum." So I think it's a good rule. I haven't really delved too much into it. There's GOP that says, the pathways that people that they've made were illegal entries before, but I don't know. Just judging it off what the article's saying, I'm not really going to dive too much deeper into that because I don't really think anything's going to change in that front, anyways. But that's what you're supposed to do is like lawful entries, and that's how you do it lawfully. So like the blocking of it just because you didn't give them enough notice is dumb. My opinion, you shouldn't give anyone notice. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. It's our country. Fuck you. It's dumb. All right. So Eric Popper is our last subject today. He was driving on I-95 in Miami, and a vehicle passed by him and threw a water bottle at his car in June of 2021. He thought the water bottle that hit his car was gunfire. And then he claims that a vehicle was tailgating him on his way to work. Things escalated when Popper brake checked them, and then he took his gun out and blindly fired. And then the charges have been dropped. So let's look at this video that we got here. And then I will read the news article on it. Now, I don't really have an opinion yet because this is the first time I'm ever hearing about this crap. Why are you brake checking people? Okay, let's go back to hear that before the gunshot. I mean, I guess you could kind of think that's a gunshot, so maybe. I don't know Miami that well, so I don't know how prevalent like gunfights can be. So let's look at the article. Dude's weird as fuck, though. Also, I mean, brake checks are gay. Just move to the side, honestly, so you don't have to deal with fucking idiots. It's my opinion. I don't think I've ever brake checked anyone, honestly. All right, South Florida man is maintaining his innocence after a road rage incident was caught on his dash cam. Eric Popper was driving southbound on Interstate 95 after near 151st Street in Miami-Dade back in June. In the video, you can see Popper shift over 3 lanes, cutting off another driver. After that, you hear the driver beep his horn. Popper continued driving southbound when the other driver pulled up next to him with his window rolled down. Popper claimed that the other driver fired at him, so he fired back in self-defense, according to the arrest report. Popper fired a total of 11 shots. After the incident, Popper pulled over, called 911, told the dispatcher, "I was shot at, my car was hit, I returned fire back at the individual." Former police chief Jorge Colina of the city of Miami watched all 4 vantage points released to NBC6. Colina told NBC6 Popper calm demeanor was striking, as well as the way he carried a firearm. The average person doesn't say, "Let me prepare my firearm, let me back up my seat, let me give myself some space." And as he fires, he kind of dips back and a little bit to make himself smaller. The other driver claims he threw a water bottle at Popper's car, but Popper told it was gunfire. Colina believes from the video it's tough to tell. I agree, it's really tough to tell. It does sound like a gunshot, but it also could very well have been a water bottle as well, like the guy said. Normally, even in the daytime at that close, you will see a muzzle flash. If the weapon is fired, you hear it. Guns are very loud, he said. Popper was arrested before in 2022 for theft and trespassing. In this case, he faced 2 2 second-degree felony charges. In both cases, the charges were dropped. Popper was also employed by the Miami Beach Fire Department. His attorney, Robert Gershman, told NBC he retired from that position. Yeah, I agree. It's really hard. It would be very hard. I found, I said maybe it could be a water bottle, but it could have also very well be a gunshot. Yeah, I agree. It would be very hard to tell about that. Yeah, I think this was the right decision because remember, when it comes to self-defense, it doesn't matter whether you were right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you were wrong about the imminent threat. Now, obviously, the video doesn't show everything. It just shows Popper's reaction, or what he basically just shows Popper his I don't know. It just all it shows is Popper. Sorry. But yeah, it doesn't really like the dash cam doesn't really show Popper or the perspective what the other driver was doing, how he was acting to what Popper was seeing. It doesn't really show how the other driver was, acting towards him, which may explain why he got his gun out and was prepared. And just because someone's prepared to shoot out of his car doesn't make it very strange. I mean, it's very clear the guy was prepared to go. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You should always be prepared. It's a dangerous world we live in. But yeah, remember, when it comes to self-defense, it doesn't matter whether you're right or not right. It matters what you were thinking at the time. And, an aggressive driver, something sounds like a gunshot to you, you return fire. If it's real, I think anyone in that, anyone seeing this could reasonably, assume either way that this was just a dude who threw a root water bottle, but also it does sound like a gunshot. And that's really the crux of self-defense. A self-defense shooting was it reasonable for a person to assume, their life was in danger or, potentially in imminent harm? And I think, that definitely crosses the threshold. Another thing that helped him is the fact that he pulled over immediately. He, called 911. Hey, I was shot at. This was self-defense. I need help, basically. And that's really helpful because it shows the state of mind it shows your state of mind at the time of the incident. I mean, no person who just, decides to go and shoots someone or shoots at someone and, knowing it's not lawful, will stick around and call the police and be like, hey, this just happened. They'll run away most of the time. And he said all the right things. He pulled over immediately, called 911, wanting help, asking, saying, hey, this was self-defense. Someone shot at me. I fired back. He did pretty much everything he really needed to do. That really helped with his self-defense. I mean, he says, I was just shot at. My car was hit. I returned fire back at the individual. And, so, I mean, I think this is the right decision. Again, he doesn't have to be right. It's just what does he perceive at the time of the incident is what's important here. And again, the dash cam video doesn't show everything. It doesn't show how Popper was, what Popper was seeing, whether the other driver was acting erratic, aggressive, all that stuff. So I think this is right. And I'm just I haven't really looked into the case. I'm just basing this on what the news media is telling me. And I know we can never trust the news media. I understand that, but it is what it is. And this is all that gone on. I'm not going to go look up and try and watch video or anything like that. But yeah, I think he did everything right. He fired in self-defense, pulled over immediately, or pulled over at some point. He called 911. He's like, "Yo," and that really helps a self-defense game. Like, it's like a lot of other like an example, like Kyle Rittenhouse, his self-defense case. Not only was there video proof of it, and like tons of video proof of him, firing only when he was being attacked or had reasonable certainty of death, or imminent bodily harm. He also ran towards the police to try and get to talk to them. This just happened. And then, the police told him to go home. So then he went home. And then the next day he returns like, this happened. I was the one, et cetera, et cetera. So there, and then we go, that happened. And then the trial that happened, not long afterwards, Theodore Edgecombe, another one who claimed self-defense, he did everything wrong. He shot the guy. He left the scene immediately. And, you can leave a scene if you fire in self-defense. You can leave a scene if you feel it's unsafe. Now, in Edgecombe's defense, he could very well have articulated, "I wasn't feeling really safe. There's a bunch of other people. I just shot a guy. It was why." He could have reasonably explained why he left, but he drove past several police stations. He never called 911. Well, he didn't really drive past the police station, but he never went to a police station. He never called 911. And then afterwards, he fled the state for 6 months. That really hurt his case. I don't believe Edgecombe was defending, using self-defense. I think he just murdered the dude just because, he came confronting him because he punched the guy, Edgecombe punched him. Okay, if you don't know the case, Edgecombe bikes up to a car. We don't know why. He says he was hit by the car, but his bike had no damage whatsoever, and there was no video. The victim's wife says that he just appeared out of nowhere. She swerved. Her husband said, "What the heck?" or "What the fuck?" And then Edgecombe pulled up, said, "What? Were you talking to me?" Edgecombe then punches the guy and then rides off. They follow him. The claim is by the wife that her husband just wanted to talk to him. He gets out of the car. It looks like he goes into a fighting stance, and then Edgecombe shoots him. That's the basics of the Edgecombe case. And then he rides away. He runs away, and then he flees for 6 months, claiming he's looking for attorneys, even though he already has criminal attorneys because he was on bail for various other crimes. So that's the basis of it. But that's the contrast. You got one person who tried to go to the police. They told him to go away, so he left, but then came back the next day. You got another guy who leaves the scene and then leaves the state for 6 months before being arrested, and then guy here, Popper, he shoots and immediately, very shortly pulls over, calls 911, and that really helps. If you're in a self-defense shooting at you believe is justified, it's what you should do. If the scene is unsafe, like say you're in a Rittenhouse situation where there's a mob, they hate you, you shoot someone that was threatening your life, and then it's someone on the other side. There's nothing wrong with you getting out of the area before calling, but the second you're done, you should immediately call and assert hey, this was self-defense. So I think Popper did everything right here. And again, that's just going off of the brief news article we just read. But yeah. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. I hope y'all liked the video. Make sure to follow me at Twitter or X, whatever it's called at this point, at official W Ghost. That is my YouTube, or that's my Twitter, not my YouTube. That's my Twitter. And then sorry. And then follow me on Rumble and YouTube with Ghost, and then my gaming channel, Gaming with Ghost, on Rumble and Kick. I hope you guys liked the video, and I hope you will show that like by liking and following or subscribing, depending on what platform you're on. I hope you all have a good day. Peace out.